I can hear you. Say something again.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Awesome. Sounds good. And you find with the recording and both of us can use the video, correct?
Sure.
Awesome. So we can get right into it if it's good with you. And let me just let you know where I'm coming from. It's not my intention to argue with you or have conflict or anything like that. My position can be summed up as to learn, because one of the things I found as I learn about flat Earth stuff and I start to plug it into uh, what I perceive and experience in reality, and I find that it doesn't match up. Sometimes people will tell me, well, that person that you got the information from, they're not really a flat earther, or that person doesn't know what they're talking about, or they're from that camp and that camp is wrong, and so on and so forth. So I've been trying to find some people who, those who tell me those kinds of things, identify as an authority on the flat earth. So one of the people who told me that, hey, he's not really, that person not really authority, and that person not really, and so on and so forth, is Horace Sheep. And he said that you are an authority, that you're somebody who is as good as DITRH, who he says is an authority. So my question to you initially is, what exactly is the sun, the earth, the moon? You could start with whichever one, like the size or distance of the sun from the earth, the size, distance of the moon, how they operate and rotate, uh, where they are, and so on and so forth.
All right. So the best way that we need to have some format in how we communicate, and the best way I find to have a conversation or back and forth is to make one point and then try and get that point concluded,
Okay.
regardless where it goes. And what I don't personally do is I don't allow anybody to make 4, 5, 6 points, so that it becomes confusing, because then it's a case of which one do you want to pick.
Okay.
So what I suggest is that we both talk about, like, we'll make one point and then we'll move further down that point and narrow it down. And if we get to a point where we disagree, then that's the point where we disagree on, and we'll try and resolve it and fix it, right?
Okay, sounds good. So let's start with the Earth then. What's the size and shape of the Earth?
Well, I was going to say let's go with the sun, because the sun's an easy one for us to both start.
Let's go with the sun.
Things that we agree on.
Okay.
Obviously, we both agree that, like, we get the sun daily, right, and it follows a pattern. We both agree with that,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And let me just make sure. I'm just making sure that I've got the things. Yeah, I have. Right, so the sun. The starting point is, when we're talking, do we both agree that if it's a contentious point, the person that makes the claim has got to prove that the claim is true? Otherwise, the point is not. It's just a point. It's rhetorical.
That makes sense. The person who makes the claim proves the point.
Sure, I agree. I think that if I was, I'm 37. And if it was contentious that I was 37, I'd have to prove it by getting my birth certificate out or by getting my driving license out. And then you satisfy the other person, be it the policeman or whoever, that you are in fact 37. But if I'm 37, I don't expect you to try and disprove that I'm not 37, because I'm the one that's telling you that I'm 37. So the proof is on me to be able to prove it, right? And if we can agree that that's the onus on both sides, that's where we need to agree that is the common ground.
Say that second point again.
So it's not for you to prove my age is not 37.
It's not for me to prove your age is not 37. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, it would be for me to prove that I am 37 if it was a contentious point. If it's not contentious, it doesn't really need to be proven. It can be a point that you just discuss and then move on. But if it is contentious, then the one that makes the point has to prove that it is actually true.
Okay, we could agree with that.
So with regards to the sun, we both see the sun daily, yellow thing in the sky. My first question is, well, you asked me, what is the sun? And my answer to that is, I don't know. What I then ask you back is, do you know what the sun is?
Yes, the sun is a large collection of different gases such as helium and hydrogen and so on and so forth that are in combustion, basically a fusion. Basically a giant fusion engine.
So then this would be about, remember before I said about the date of birth and the age? I would then say, well, how do you know?
I studied for some scientists from the work that they've done in learning about it.
Okay, so it's not a contentious point, so we can afford to move on from it because we don't have to have a massive fallout over it.
Okay.
Because we both agree that there are common characteristics about the sun that we both observe, and we can do it easily. And it's a case of, well, it's not contentious. We don't need to have a disagreement about it. Well, there is a contentious point with the sun, and it's to do with the model that you ascribe to. How far away is it?
Well, so you don't intend on trying to explain the flat Earth model to me?
Well, you asked about the sun, so I thought we'd spend time exploring the elements of the
Yeah,
sun.
I asked you about the sun. In other words, I'm trying to learn. As I said, I'm trying to learn about the flat Earth model, so I could have
Most
the.
people don't ascribe to a particular model. You know that, right?
Yes, I understand that. That's my point. So, I've I've I found from a flat earther who said this is the way the sun works, and when I explored that point, somebody else would say, well, that's not a real flat earther, that's different. And then I would get a point from that person, and they say, well, that person's not an expert, and so on and so forth. So somebody identified you as an expert. Uh,
Well, I'm not an expert. I just realised that. Listen,
well, you may
the
not
fact is
consider yourself
this.
an expert, but I would just say other people do identify you as an expert. You may not consider
Okay.
yourself one, but other people do. So I'm trying to ask you, what is the sun really? Because my understanding is your understanding is that the Earth is flat and that and so on and so forth. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm asking you, what is the sun in this? Uh, uh,
And my answer is I don't know.
okay, okay,
It doesn't have characteristics that are easy for me to be able to make any conclusions on because it doesn't change its angular speed that much. It tells me that it's quite far away. How far away, I don't know. It doesn't change its angular size that much. That tells me that it does have a proximal relationship with Earth, but it's not like I don't know what the sun
all
is.
right. So it seems like we don't really have a basis. Is it your position that the Earth is flat?
No, my position is that the Earth is not a spinning testicle.
Right. So it's not your position that the Earth is flat. It's just that your position is that it's not a globe going through space.
Yeah, I can't prove that it's flat because there's not enough time, people, money, tools. I mean, the most we've got really is like a P900 and a compass.
Okay.
What would the expectation be
Okay.
for somebody with no time, money, or skill or tools to do stuff, right?
How do you know that it's not a globe hurling through space around the sun and so on and so forth?
Well, because I've researched it for the last 2 years on my own, independently, and come to the conclusion that whatever it is that we live on, it's not conforming with the geometry that we're told that it is.
Okay. What's your best evidence that you found that shows that it does not conform to that?
Well, the lack of evidence to support the official version of what we do live on. Listen, I'm just filling in some fields on the live stream. What's your name?
Darryl E Berry Jr.
Is that what you're known as on YouTube?
Yeah.
I'll just put Darryl. I'll just put Darryl Darryl.
Just like in my Skype.
Okay, so Darryl Berry, yeah.
Hmm. Well, Darryl E Berry Jr. is on my YouTube, but
Darryl E Berry Jr. About our world. I'm just changing it so that people know what they're coming into because people are watching now, but it's all set up with the previous Hangout details.
that's good.
Darryl, it challenges me on the science of our world. That'll be enough. It's just so that people know what they're looking at when they see it. All right. So So the sun.
Well, one moment we was actually talking about. You said that there's no evidence for a
Yeah.
globe Earth. All right. Now,
Yeah.
let me let you know some of the things. One of the things that happened recently that supports to me that what they say about the Earth, Sun, Moon, and so forth is accurate as far as a globe going around the Sun and the Moon going around the Earth and so on and so forth. Are you aware that there was a lunar eclipse recently?
Yeah, I got totally clouded out.
Okay. Now, scientists, astronomers, and all that stuff, they give exact dimensions for the Earth, exact dimensions for the Moon, exact dimensions for the Sun, exact distances, exact times of revolution of the Earth around the Sun and revolutions of the Moon around the Earth and rotations and so on and so forth. All of that data together adds up to them being able to predict the lunar eclipse that occurred recently. Let me show you a link real fast. One moment, please. Now, this is, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with archive.org. They save links from, I guess, I don't, sometimes I guess you have to kind of contact them to get them to save your site, but generally they save a lot of sites. So if you click on this link here, this is a link from csky.org. And this is another link from timeanddate.com. Just give me a moment. I can pull up the links myself. I can make sure I point out the what I'm getting at. So
to be honest, my Skype at the moment is just being terrible. It won't. I've clicked the accept to accept your friend request, but it's not actually letting me click the link. I can't explain why.
that's fine. Let me see if I can share it with you. I haven't used Skype in a while, but I'm pretty sure there's a way I can share my screen and I can put this up on the screen and share it with you. So just give me a moment here. Just only take a second, and I'll see if I can get these links sharing for you. So let me see how this might work.
Well, perhaps we could just kind of get to the point, because I think what the point we're going to get to is that you're going to say that they can make all these predictions, right?
Well, basically, yeah. If you wanted to jump to the point, but I wanted to make sure it wasn't a situation where it happened already. So of course you can say they predicted it. You can go to archive.org whenever you get the time and look up csky.org or look up timeanddate.com, and the dates that I found on these websites here, this link from csky.org is from February 19th of 2011, and this link from timeanddate.com is from November of 2012. And actually there's a better one here. So the exact one that shows the lunar eclipse is from, give me one moment here, and I appreciate your patience while it's loading.
No, don't worry, man.
Are you able to see my screen there now?
I do.
Awesome. So you see this one is from November 17th, 2012, lunar eclipse, July 27, 2018. This one is from February 19th, 2011. And if you scroll down here, you can see that right there, total lunar eclipse. This eclipse will be visible throughout most of Europe, Africa, Western and Central Asia, the Indian Ocean, and Western Australia. Now, if I click open this link here, this NASA map eclipse information, it opens up another archive page from back in the day. And when I open up the PDF that comes from this file, it shows this PDF here from back in the day where they predict the exact, all of these different details of the lunar eclipse exactly. It shows this map that shows the location. And again, this is from 2011, 2012. It perfectly matches the one from timeanddate.com. And it matches the locations that's given in csky.org for the same day and so forth. And of course, the solar eclipse was videotaped. It was seen and everything just recently. So the fact that they predict this with the data that they provide for what the sun is and how big it is and the rotation and revolution, that lends to me that what they're saying is accurate. I've never seen a flat earth, and I mean, as we're going so far, like right now, you don't have any information on the sun so far. So, of course, it'd be hard to predict things like this if you don't have some kind of understanding of the pattern that these things take, because you don't know what they are. But when they put out this data and they demonstrate to me the validity of it by saying, okay, the sun is here and the Earth is going around it this fast and this many times, this many days for a year, and the moon is going around. And when you calculate all these things, boom, the sun is going to land here next to the Earth here and the moon here, and it's going to be a lunar eclipse. And here it is 7 years later, and there's a lunar eclipse. So that to me lends credence to the data that they're saying is accurate. So what do you have to say about that?
Okay, I'm going to ask you two questions. What do you think it proves?
Well, I just explained it. The fact that they give all this data about the sun, the moon, the Earth, and so forth.
Specifically, what do you think that data proves? All right, let me ask you with two answers. Does it prove anything to do with the shape of the Earth, or does it prove a frequency?
Yes, it proves the shape of the Earth. Yes.
Really?
Oh, yes.
How does it prove the shape of the Earth?
Well, because one, when you look at the solar eclipse, you can see the curvature of the Earth's shadow on the moon. Another way that it proves this is because all of these calculations for this activity is made under the foundation of the Earth being a globe and the moon being a globe, turning around each other, and the sun being a globe. So in other words, the model does not work. The model is based upon all of these things, and the model predicts a real world occurrence that we can see that's based upon the spherical nature. The same thing with a solar eclipse. Now, if you look at a solar eclipse, we can scroll down through these pages, and the same thing. You can see the predictions, you can see the maps. I mean, I could load it up if you want. And a solar eclipse is quite unique because, all right, let me just pull it up so we could be on the same page for this one moment, because I got the site here, so I'll take a moment to load it up. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go here to the, now, what I'm going to do is to go to the one that I saw last year. So I saw the solar eclipse of August of 2017 last year. So somewhere on here, there's a list of all solar and lunar eclipses. Give me a moment, and I'll find the list. Thank you for your patience again.
It's okay. I mean, to be
No,
honest,
no,
I'm
no. I
with
mean,
you.
it's very important. I want to make sure I show you this because it's going to be. Uh,
Right, that screen there. I want you to keep hold of that screen there where you had that little icon, that little display, because I'll use that.
okay, awesome. I found it. Okay, so let me go back a little bit. So we're going to go to 2017. This is last year. Solar. All right, August 21st. Now, if you look at this, the movement of this solar eclipse is shaped that way because the Earth is round. Because when the moon is moving before the Earth and the sun's light is reflecting upon it, the curvature of the Earth causes the shadow to move a certain way because of the curvature. And I mean, this is easily demonstrable. If you take a basketball and you take a object and put a light so that the shadow of the object lands on the basketball, you can see that the
All
shape of
right.
the basketball causes the shadow to skew a bit.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna.
they
I need to
predict the
interrupt you.
exact size, shape, and location of the shadow based upon a sphere, and it matches what we see when we go there and we, park our car and get out and we're at the edge of the eclipse. So all of this proves the roundness of the Earth by all of these
All right.
data adding up.
All right. So I asked you, what does it prove? And you basically reasserted your position, which is cool. And what it actually proves is a frequency. It doesn't prove anything more than a frequency. Now, if you accept from that frequency that it means that we live on a sphere, then that pushes the conversation a little bit further. And you mentioned something
No, one
about seeing
moment,
the shadow.
one moment now. You said all it mentions is the frequency, but what about the fact of the movement and shape of the shadow that
Well,
conforms with
that's what
a globe?
that's what I'm coming to.
Okay.
So just let me finish. Um, First off, when you say the shadow, you see my screen. Can you? I don't know whether you
No, I
can.
have to probably stop sharing my screen and see your screen. One moment here. Let me see if I can get this worked out. One moment here.
You may have to watch the normal chat, the
Stop
normal link.
sharing. Okay, give me the link, the normal link.
Hang on, let me just see if I can screen share.
But to make sure I'm understanding, you have no model for the flat Earth. Is that correct? Is that
Yeah,
what I'm understanding?
absolutely.
Huh?
I have no money either, no tools, no science, no nothing.
So I mean, so
All,
that kind of really, I mean, I don't mind because we agreed to talk. I don't mind talking a bit longer about the round Earth, but the point of me speaking to you from my end was trying to get some definite answers on the way the world works as the Earth is flat. But I'm understanding that you have no answers because you don't have the time and the money to actually research this stuff. So
oh
that's
no,
fine.
I have answers. It's just
Okay,
whether
well,
you're
well,
willing to
well,
listen.
that's fine. Well, let's finish this point and we can talk about the answers that you do have. But what were you going to show me?
So on screen, I've got the.
I
Just
see it.
wondering why the screen's flashing so much.
Yeah, mine is doing the same thing, but that's fine. We can keep going.
So we've got images that relate to the lunar
Let me
eclipse,
just turn
and
this
you
off
made a
here.
point that was to do with we're seeing the casting of the shadow of the Earth on the moon.
Hmm.
How do you know it's the Earth on the moon? Is it because this drawing tells you?
No, no, no. I mean, it's several different things added together. We have satellites out seeing the position of the moon. We have people on the space station going around the Earth seeing where the moon is while the eclipse is happening. They even take pictures of the shadow of the Earth, excuse me, the shadow of the moon on the Earth
All right.
during a solar
So
eclipse and so on and so forth. So all of these things add together to give us a picture and a definitive picture of what the Earth and the moon and the sun is like and where the Earth is at and so on and
sure,
so forth.
sure, but would you agree that if it's the Earth that's casting the shadow, that when you look at these pictures that show the different phases of the moon as it goes through its cycle of the lunar
Hmm.
eclipse, would you agree that it shouldn't be red whilst it's in the shadow of the Earth?
No, no, I wouldn't agree. Why would you say it shouldn't be red?
Well, normally when you cast a shadow on something, it's black.
Okay, straight answer, straightforward answer. So let me explain what I've learned about why it is red. And I've already covered several points, and hopefully after this one we can cover some things that you do know about the flat Earth after this. But I'm happy to cover this for you. Okay, so this is my understanding of what I learned about how this works. Uh, of course, the Earth has an atmosphere. We could agree upon that. And atmosphere has an effect on light. Light hits the atmosphere. Uh, Wavelengths that are shorter, like blue, scatter. That's why the sky is blue, because
Yeah,
the sunlight comes and hits the atmosphere, it scatters. But
yeah.
but faster wavelengths like red and orange, it it goes through the atmosphere. So what happens is the light that goes through the atmosphere is refracted downward, or I guess I can't say downward, but inward around the Earth, and that red, orange, yellow light hits the moon, bounces back to us, and that's the reddish, orange, or yellow that we see. And if you were on the moon, if you were standing on the moon during a total lunar eclipse, you would see a red, yellow, or orange glow around the Earth as the reddish, orange, yellowish sunlight comes around the Earth and hits the moon. So that's why it's red or yellow or orange, depending on the dust content of the air at the
All
time,
right.
the cloud
That is
coverage, and so on and so
that
forth.
is
Okay,
that is the answer that science gives us. You're
okay.
right. It seems to me that if we've got the shadow of the Earth, which is what your position is, this is the shadow of the Earth being cast on the moon, and then as the moon moves out of it, that's we're seeing that, right? We're seeing the shadow of the
Yes,
Earth.
you're going.
My question is, if you got this red spot in the middle that appears to be not comparable with all the others, it seems to be a sore thumb. How can you prove that this is the Earth that's being cast?
Well, again, because we have people in outer space, or I guess it depends on whether you want to demarcate outer space that circle around the Earth in the space station, and they can see the placement of the Earth and the Moon and so forth, and see that it's happening.
All right. So,
The
all right.
fact
So,
that again, going back to uh, the I forgot the exact word you used, the cycles or what have you. We know how long the Earth takes to rotate. We know how long it takes to revolve around the sun, and how long the moon takes to revolve around the Earth, and so on and so forth. And knowing this and looking at where things are now, knowing those calculations, they can simply calculate when it'll be, and of course it matches when the lunar eclipse
all
happens.
right.
Another way
Let's
we can know
let's.
is the fact that lunar eclipses, all of these things taken into account, right?
Okay.
Lunar
Okay. Listen.
eclipses happen on all different parts of the world. So why don't
Okay.
we, if you can go ahead and take down, because I saw your screen and everybody can see your screen, but my other monitors are gonna keep flashing as long as you're sharing. So if you could stop sharing momentarily, and I could use my hands and thank you, sir. So I'll turn my other monitor back on so I can make sure. Uh, actually, I can see myself there now because you're not sharing. So lunar eclipses, if you go to the time and date site, they happen at all different times of the year and all different times of all different parts of the planet. And every single time of the year, part of the planet, the shadow that we see moving across the moon is still curved. Now, you mentioned if I understand your question correctly, you mentioned that when the lunar eclipse is full on, it's red, but as the shadow moves over, you can see kind of blue right there, or light. Is that correct?
Sure. Well, that was just one point. I mean, I do want to move on because
Well, I
I
mean, I
want to
want to make
speak.
sure I address everything because you said we're going to address a point before we move on. So you brought up the point, so I want
No, no,
to
I
address
agree,
it.
but I'd like. There are some things that I want to try and speed the conversation up. Otherwise, we can dwell on a lot of points. We can get more ground covered
So we're not
if
going
we
to
give
cover every point.
concise
That's fine. I
answers.
mean, we could change the rules, but why don't you share something you know? I've already given like at least two
Well,
different things from my perspective. What do you know about that lets you know that the Earth is flat? Like, what do you
hang
know
on, hang
about
on,
the
hang on.
moon?
I haven't finished on on the solar eclipse, the lunar eclipse point yet. You mentioned something about the frequency, and I asked specifically what did it prove, and your position was, well, it didn't really. It was basically proving the shape of the Earth. Are you aware that there is another moon out there
No, no, no.
called?
What I said was the curvature of the shadow that moves across the
Sure,
moon's face
sure.
proves the
Are you
curvature of the Earth.
Are you aware that there's something out there called the Black Moon or the Dark Moon? It's called Lilith.
No, I'm not aware of that. Okay, what is this?
Lilith it's called the Black Moon or the Dark Moon.
Okay.
I'm going to present. Can you? I don't know whether you can see that now because I'm not sharing. Let me try and reshare that.
Okay.
Share screen.
If my screen flashes, I'll just turn it off again.
Right. So on screen, I've got. Can you see the Amazon page?
I can see that.
Right, so every year Raphael does an ephemeris, and what the ephemeris is data that's to do with the astrological bodies or the celestial bodies in regards to their location in our night sky. And what it does is it catalogues the movements of all of the main bodies. So, like we've got the main planets, the sun, and the moon. But one of the things that it documents is I don't know whether you'll be able to see it, and I can't move in anymore because this is maximum zoom.
I can see it good.
But can you read the bottom line?
Okay. It's kind of small to see that, but give me a moment. I'll see what I can do. One moment here. Well, I'll tell you what. Just drop the link in chat, and I'll pull up the link. We could just do that. Just drop the link in chat right there.
Okay.
In Skype chat.
Copy this, and then it won't let me accept it. I can't. You can see what I'm doing.
That's fine.
Yeah?
Give me a moment. I could just do a search for it. One moment, please. Let me just get my other monitor back
just
on.
Go to Amazon and type in Raphael's ephemeris.
Okay, sounds good. Just give me a moment while my screen comes back on. You have to stop sharing though, because it's gonna keep blinking if you don't stop sharing. But I'll be able to pull it up on my own webpage.
I don't know why it's doing that. It doesn't normally do that.
It's probably just my video recorder or something. There we go. All right.
So the bottom line reads.
Well, one moment. Let me pull it up. What is it called again?
Ephemeris. Raphael's ephemeris. EPHEM.
Okay. I see
ERIS.
Ephemeris. Okay, I do see it here. I see the red one like you have there.
Yeah, 2019.
I don't see the 2019 one, but does it really matter which one or?
I don't know. That's just the one I've got on screen. It should be the same on all of them.
Okay,
it's just that I can see it on the screen on this one.
I have
Some
the
of the pictures are smaller.
One. It says, and let me pull up the image and increase it. Okay, so it says mean time observed throughout. Is that the line you're talking about? Like, where is it in relation to that line?
Just click in the image. It says see the image.
Yeah, it's really big. So I'm needing to move my mouse around to read it. So like.
Yeah. So look above. Can you see the big words in the middle that says a complete aspectarian?
Okay, I see that one.
The line that's above it.
Okay, I'm gonna read it. Containing the longitudes of all the planets daily, and their latitudes and declinations for every other day, with the lunar and mutual aspects for every day act. Also 10-day longitudes of Charon, 4 asteroids, and Black Moon Lilith. Okay?
Right. So what and this is continuous. This goes back in history, like as long as many years. Whatever the Black Moon Lilith is, they know about it. It's up there, and they can document its movements. And
who knows about it?
Well, Raphael, the astronomical company known as Raphael's Astronomical.
How did they learn about it?
That's part of my question, because ultimately what you're claiming is to rotate the curvature of the Earth that we're seeing, yet it gives off that red cast to it.
One moment now. You said earlier that the person who makes the claim proves the claim. Now you're trying to get me to prove your claim. Hey! I never said there was a Lilith. No, you said there's a Lilith. I don't believe in Lilith. You said the person who makes the claim has to prove the claim, but now you're asking me about your claim. I didn't mention Lilith. You mentioned Lilith, so you tell me. You know what I'm saying? Why are you trying to get me to prove your claim? You're going against your rule again. Earlier you said we're going to cover every point. You brought up the point of the brightness that's coming at the edge of the darkness of the moon. I went to explain that, covering every point, and you said, no, okay, now we don't have to cover every point anymore. We started the chat. You said the person who makes the claim has to prove the claim, and now you're asking me about your claim. That's...
Stop.
Okay.
You're jumping the gun. I'm not asking you to prove my claim.
Okay.
I'm asking you to accept the fact that there is something up there called the Black Moon, known as Lilith.
I do not accept the fact that there's anything up there as Lilith. It's up to you to prove to me that there's a Lilith. I don't believe there's a Lilith. Just because this book says there's a Lilith, I don't know who Edwin Raphael is. Why should I believe there's a Lilith? Why does reading this book prove there's a Lilith? The only thing you've given me is a cover of a book that says there's a Lilith. Why should I then accept there's a Lilith?
Because there is there is a celestial body up there called Lilith that interferes with our vision.
Okay, so
And
you're
this
saying this
document,
book, just because he wrote it on the cover of the book, that proves there's a Lilith?
they know. Well, if you're not going to accept that, then
The only
that's
thing
fine.
you've given me is the image cover of a book, and I read it, and it says it's a Lilith. So that proves
Yeah,
there's a
but what I'm
Lilith.
saying, the point I'm making is that how can we be certain that there is the shape of the Earth being cast on the moon when we know that there is another moon up there and it
No, I
interacts
don't know
with?
there's another moon. You're saying there's another moon, but you're not giving me any proof for it. I said we know because there's astronauts circling in the ISS. There's satellites up there seeing things. We have the calculations of everything, so we can calculate it. That's what I said. I didn't mention anything about Lilith. Now, if you're mentioning Lilith, you can tell me what Lilith is and knock yourself out. But I'll never say there is a Lilith just because I read it on the cover of this little image. As far as I know,
All
that could
right,
be a fiction somebody made up.
all right. So you're prepared to accept that there's astronauts up there and stuff, which I don't accept, but you're not
Definitely.
prepared
I've
to.
seen the space station myself. I know
All
it's up
right,
there.
I've seen it too, and I know
Okay.
something's up there too, and I agree with you. There is something up there.
Okay. So prove there's
But
not
what my
astronauts up
point
there
is,
then.
my point is that you're accepting one piece of evidence with regards to the astronauts that are up there, and I don't accept that. But I do accept that there is something else up there that we don't get told about, and you don't accept this.
No, no, no.
So my
So this
question
this is the
becomes, well,
difference.
how can you be
This is
so
the difference.
sure?
Okay. How
How
can I
can
be
you
so
be?
sure? This is
Yeah,
the
and it's
difference.
rhetorical. Hang on, wait, it's rhetorical because I don't want you to answer it at this point. What I want you to do at this point, can you still see my screen?
Yes. No, no, I mean I can see you. I can't see your screen. Like I can't see your sharing.
Hang on.
Just give me a moment. I'll turn off my monitor.
I think it's flashing because of the. It won't let me actually accept your
That's fine.
message yet. All right. So with regards to when I said to you before about frequency, I asked you what did the frequency prove, and it's either frequency or something else. Are you familiar? Are you aware of this thing called the Antikythera mechanism?
Oh, one moment. Like you're mischaracterizing my position.
Really?
I didn't say just the frequency proves
No.
anything.
No,
I
I
said
asked
by
you. I
calculating the
asked you,
frequency, and we can see that it matches what we see in reality. So
Daryl.
by
Daryl,
calculating the frequency
listen.
and knowing when the eclipse should happen, that's why I showed you the link to the csky.org and timeofday.com, and under those calculations, they calculated that solar eclipse, excuse me, a lunar eclipse should happen a few days ago, and we
Daryl.
saw the lunar eclipse. So it's not just calculations or whatever. It's the fact that those calculations match reality. So please don't mischaracterize what I'm saying.
Right. So
And
please let me
about the
respond
curvature
when I'm
of the Earth,
saying
because
something.
again,
Then,
you can see the curvature of the moon.
Daryl. Damn it.
Well, I
Come
just want to
on.
make sure that you don't, because you're saying this is what I said, but it's not exactly what I
Daryl.
said. So I want to make
Right.
sure that before
Let
we
me
go
address
on, okay,
let me address your claim that you say I've just mischaracterized you. Right.
okay.
I asked you before specifically what did the frequency or the event itself prove? Did it prove frequency or did it prove the shape of the Earth? And you said shape of the Earth, and I asked you for why, and you gave me an answer.
Yes, I said
Now,
because the curvature of the Earth is on the moon. I said that a solar eclipse, you can see the movement and shape of the shadow. So I didn't say just the calculations or the repetitions of the numbers. I gave that calculation that matches what we see in reality. Again, the curvature of the Earth on the moon during the lunar eclipse, the way the shadow moves and is shaped during the solar eclipse, and all of these things together happen as predicted from those calculations, and those occurrences prove the shape of the Earth because of the shadow and because of the way the shadow moves from a solar eclipse. So again, I
so
did
you
give you an
say,
answer why, but you can't just cut off the whole other end of my answer. You know what I'm saying?
right, I didn't cut off the end of your answer. I gave you the answers you gave me back. I asked you
You gave me
specifically.
part of the answer I gave you
For
back.
God's sake,
You
Daryl,
gave me
come
part of the
on.
answer I gave you back. I mean,
Stop
I'm
interrupting me and
not
let me
gonna
get
let
my
you get away
words
with that.
out.
You gave part of the answer I gave you back. You need to give
No,
the whole answer and include the shape
Daryl.
of the moon on the excuse me, the shape of the Earth on the moon. Also the shape, size, and movement of the moon shadow on the Earth during a solar eclipse that conforms with a globe and the position of the moon and stuff as directed, and the fact that all of that happens and occurs at the time calculated based upon those repetitions. So you can't just give part of the answer. Okay.
Daryl, are you done?
Yes, I am. But
Right.
every time you
Please
say only
stop.
part of the answer, I'm gonna have to interject. I mean, if you can include the full answer, then we're fine. But as long as you give part of the answer and say we're going to base it off just that part, then we have a problem, right?
We have a problem that you're constantly interrupting and speaking over me at this
Okay.
point, and it's not acceptable. I
Okay.
want you to let me speak, get my
Okay.
words out,
Okay.
and then respond.
Okay.
Don't interrupt me
Okay.
because I'm losing my patience with you, and I'm
Okay.
trying to get my words out, and you keep interrupting me.
I'll just interject after this time. Let's go.
Thank you. I asked you specifically with regards to the lunar eclipse, what did it actually prove? And I asked you, was it the shape of the Earth or was it the frequency? That was my question, and there were two closed answers, and you gave the shape of the Earth and you justified why. I'm now going to explore the second part of the question, which was to do with the frequency, because the frequency is important. Now, you made a point about how can they make all these predictions and how can they be accurate. Well, you're not aware of this Antikythera mechanism, right? And basically, it's a clock. But it's a clock, and what the clock does is it makes the astrological predictions of the frequency of all of the main celestial bodies, and it's done it for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it's been recreated. They found it somewhere on a boat somewhere or whatever, and once they recreated it and they worked out what it was referencing, they realized that these frequencies were predictable based on flat planes. And I say flat because it's a clock. You can't have curvy time, curvy clocks. All the cogs inside a clock mechanism are all flat. They're all like circular flat planes that spin round in a mechanism.
Okay.
So the point about the frequency is that regardless of the shape of the Earth, the frequency is there, and it's been modeled using a clock, and essentially it's like clockwork. So these things happen regardless of the shape of the Earth. Now, my question to you again is, do you still think that the lunar eclipse and the predictable capabilities of what is claimed to be your model proves anything to do with the shape of the Earth, or is there an argument to say that it simply proves the frequency regardless of the shape of the Earth?
Given that these predictions are made based upon the movement of the Earth and the Moon and around the Sun and all their revolutions as spheres and globes, and the fact that it all adds up and matches up to the actual occurrence of the lunar eclipse, proves that the Earth is round and so on and so forth. This is what you can do to prove otherwise. Take your flat Earth knowledge and you give predictions. If you can take your flat Earth knowledge and your Lilith and all of this stuff and let us know exactly where they are, exactly what they are, as whatever you say they are, on the flat plane or whatever you say it is, which I mean, apparently you don't even know if it's flat because you, according to you couldn't find it out, so you don't know if it's flat. You just know that it's not a globe or a sphere in some way. But whatever knowledge you do have, and we still haven't gotten to what you do know, if you can take your knowledge and predict more accurately than what they do from a model that's not a sphere and a globe, then we can talk. But at this point, again, the model and the frequency is all predicted based upon spheres and spheres and spheres and rotations, revolutions, and it all adds up. I don't,
Right.
unless you can explain to me how it could all add up and match reality if it's not really a sphere when all the our calculations are based upon spheres and revolutions in space, then we can talk.
Right. So what you're looking at right under your nose right now, you see the clock mechanism in front of you, yeah?
Yes, I do.
That mechanism is not based on a sphere. It's not based on a flat either. It's based on a clock.
Now, this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing you showing me a page, like let's go back to all the stuff I said. Now, not only did I mention the fact that it occurs when we could experience it when they say it occurs, but we have people out in space that send pictures from outer space, satellites from outer space that send pictures, and so on and so forth. What evidence do you have that this works? Because I'm not just saying there's people up in there and I just believe it. They send pictures of the Earth and the satellites send pictures of the Earth. I can look up and see the space station, which I've seen several times, right where they said. So everything is lending credence to it. What other than seeing somebody write it on the cover of a book, and other than seeing this article about it, what proof do you have that this thing really does what this page said? What evidence do you have?
Well, hang on. Before we move off this point, we haven't got a conclusion on this point. The point is,
why is it okay for you not to get conclusion when you don't want? And you know what I'm saying? Earlier you said we have to cover every point, and then you mentioned the point about the moon and the light at the edge of the
here's
shadow.
the thing.
I
we're at
wanted
the
to explain
crescendo of
that, and then you said,
we're
okay, let's just move on. So now I'm
Daryl,
saying let's just move on and cut the
We're
time short a
hang on,
bit,
Darryl.
and you
Listen,
let me know.
we're at the crescendo of my point here, which is that you think
Okay.
it's the curvature of the Earth or the shape of the Earth, and I'm saying it's a frequency,
Okay. So
nothing
prove
more,
me
a pattern.
otherwise, please. Let me know
And
your evidence.
I'm now giving you the mechanism that can be used. That's not based on either flat or spherical, flat or round. And we see that the frequency is duplicated with the Antikythera mechanism. And I wanted to accept and concede that it's to do with the frequency. It's got nothing to do with the
Okay.
shape of the Earth.
Okay. We can go in that direction. Prove to me that works.
Well, it's been done. It's been able to be used for thousands of years.
Prove it. Where? Who? By whom?
Well, here is you're right. So this is where we go into the realms of how credible is evidence.
Exactly, because
So
that's just Wikipedia. I can let you know I don't use Wikipedia at all because I have things that I know about personally that I've researched and studied and wrote about and taught, and I know that Wikipedia can be inaccurate about things. So me myself, I don't
I
use
agree.
Wikipedia at all. So we agree
I
on that. So that's not a
I
source of
agree.
reference for me. That's just something anybody could do. Go again. I've seen. I mean, there's no more need to be said about that because we agree on that. So that's not any proof. Show me some proof or evidence that that thing is real and that thing works. Who used it and so forth.
Well, all I can say to you at this point is this is a big topic in itself,
So
and,
you don't have any proof.
you're looking at it.
Again, we just agreed that Wikipedia is not a primary source. You're showing me an image on Wikipedia and an article on Wikipedia that we both agree is not a good source of information. So you're just like the image on that book. You just want me to read that this person put a word
No,
on this book that says Lilith is there. Don't you accept that Lilith is there? Oh, look at this Wikipedia article that we both agree Wikipedia is not a good source. Now you accept this? No. Where's your proof
right,
and your evidence?
right. I'm trying to get words out, but because you're talking for so long periods, I'm losing my momentum.
Okay.
Do you agree that there is something known or described or not? Do you agree that there is something called the Antikythera mechanism? Yes or no?
Yes, I'm looking at a web page you're showing me right now where people are referring to something as the Ankythera mechanism. So I could at least be aware that there's people on Earth who refer to something there as an Ankythera mechanism because I'm looking at people refer to it as such. So yes,
Now, notwithstanding the fact that this is thousands of years old and it was found at the bottom of on a boat on the
prove
bottom
it.
of an ocean
Prove
somewhere.
it.
Well, you can kind of tell by looking at it that it's clearly not new, right? Look at the picture. This is a
No, that
photograph.
doesn't prove to me that it's not new. I can take you a brand new book, and I can throw it around and stump it and throw it on the ground, and I can say, look, is this new or not? And you can say, no, that's obviously not new. It's old, but I could have bought it yesterday. Do we agree on that?
So what that would then imply that
Please
this is
answer my question. I asked a very simple question. I can take a,
the
I could
answer
buy
is
a,
yes. The
what's that?
answer is yes. I thought it
Okay,
was a
so that
rhetorical
means that
question.
just looking old doesn't prove that it's old. Thank you. So prove it.
So basically, what you're going to do now? This appears to be a pattern that no matter what evidence that I give you, you'll dismiss it
You didn't give me any
immediately.
evidence. You showed me you showed me a picture from a website that we both agreed is not a good source. You showed me a picture and you said this proves it's old when I just demonstrated for you the fact that just because something looks old doesn't mean it's old. You disagreed with me on that. So you didn't give me any evidence. You're just showing me a
There's
website from a site that we both agree is not a good source.
there's a documentary on the Antikythera mechanism.
Again,
Okay,
you're
so
still
that's
just showing me stuff, videos.
right. But this is what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to show you that there
Okay.
is something out there that does explain the frequency, that doesn't depend on the shape of the Earth, and you're dismissing it because you don't know anything about it,
Well, this
or
is what
you
you would
don't
have to
want to
do
have
to
the
get me to
discussion.
accept it. Use that to predict the next 10 years of solar eclipses. Then we can talk. The scientists and astronomers, they use their globe
Dude,
model and they predicted the lunar eclipse that happened just the other day. They used that model to predict the solar eclipse that happened last year, which I drove 3 hours to see, and it happened. So if you know this is real, you use it to predict the next 10 years of lunar and solar eclipses, since we know that they happen repetitiously, as you were saying earlier, and then we can talk. Are you going to do that for us?
so you want me to personally do this myself?
Or it doesn't have to be personally you, just anybody who can demonstrate that they're doing it by the way you're saying it's doing it. I mean, it doesn't have to be you personally. It could be all of y'all working together. I don't really care. But as long as y'all can demonstrate that, I mean, when have you seen this demonstrated? Let's do that. You're saying this is true. All you're doing so far is just showing me somebody said it on the website or said it in the video.
Well,
When
hang on.
have you
Let's go
actually?
back. You asked me then to prove that it can be predicted, right? Read the line in blue.
That doesn't prove anything. That's just something somebody said on the website that we both agreed is not a good. Okay. The
But hang on a
proof
minute.
that I
Hang
gave
on.
you, the
Stop.
proof.
Stop. 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 I'm not letting you throw this in the bin. Read what it says. I'll do it
Uh,
for you. It says the Antikythera mechanism is an ancient Greek analog computer and orrery used to predict the astronomical predictions and eclipses for calendars and astrological purposes in advance. What?
okay. I do. I
Okay.
do see that it said that.
Right. And can you see the 5, 6, and 7?
Yes, I do see there's some references there.
Right, these references are not, well, you can look into them yourself, but what I'm suggesting at this point is that you don't know anything about this and you're dismissing it based on your ignorance rather than giving the credibility it deserves, which is, and the answer that you should be giving is, I'm not familiar with this, I'll go and look into it, because that's the honest position to take, rather than dismissing it because you've not heard of it before. Doesn't mean that it's not true.
Okay. Okay.
What I'm saying
Okay.
is
That is
this
true.
is well,
That is true. Just because I haven't
this
heard
is
of it
well
before doesn't mean it's
documented.
not true.
This is well documented, and all it does is makes the predictions, which is the point I was making, that the astrological predictions doesn't prove whether it's a ball or not. All it proves is the frequencies, and I'm not comfortable with you dismissing this as a point because it doesn't prove whether it's sphere or flat. It proves that there is a frequency, and that's it.
Okay, so we could agree that there's a frequency to solar eclipses and they happen at a certain frequency that's predictable. Is that
Yeah.
Okay, then we agree then. So we're good.
But what that also means is that it doesn't move. It doesn't prove the shape of the Earth.
Okay, we could just move on that point, and
Yeah.
that's fine. Now, what is your? You said you do know some stuff. What stuff do you know?
Well, we can see a lot further than what we should be able to see. There is no evidence that supports the idea that the Earth is a spinning testicle that's got a self-perpetuating molten iron core.
Okay. Let's address that last thing. Okay. The evidence that we have that the composition of the Earth is what it is. Are you aware of seismology? Is that correct?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so we know that when there's vibrations that moves through solid objects, it moves at certain speeds, given the density and the composition of that matter. So we
Right.
so we can
Hang on. How reliable is seismological predictions? Would you say it's very accurate, very reliable, 50-50, or would you say they can
now,
get things totally
and I
wrong?
just want to point out, like you were saying, you were getting impatient with me, and I just want to point out that we both do the same thing, and it's going to happen in the conversation. I was given a point, and you cut me off in the middle of my point, and I've done that to you. I apologize, but it happens. So will you allow me now to continue my point?
Well, you made a point about seismology.
I didn't
If
make
we're
a
going to
point
go
yet.
down,
I didn't make
if
a
we're going to
point
go
yet.
down the seismology route as an evidence to prove the shape of the Earth, then that's fine. I'm prepared to do that. But I want to explore the molten iron core bit first with some physics to make sure that we're on the same page.
Okay.
But I need to know: are you intending on arguing seismology to prove your point in the future on this point?
Yes.
Okay. So on that point, we'll come. Let's deal with the basics in the physics that we both agree on, so that we can get to the point where we disagree. Do we agree that the claim by science is that the Earth is a molten iron spinning core? It's got a molten iron core. Do we agree?
I can't really say. I can't really be sure about that.
Well, okay. So it's hard this because are you able to open up the main chat window so you can see the way that it's being broadcast? Because if I screen share, you're going to get that black and white screen.
Yes, I can. So just let me open it up in the new window there. One moment here. This is on your page, Sleeping Warrior?
Sure.
Okay, one moment, please.
Because if you can see what I've got on screen without me screen sharing and flickering for you, then it might be better for us.
Makes sense. All right, I see it.
Okay, so I've got this is the model that you ascribe to. This is the Earth as we're told that
Give me
it's.
one moment, I apologize. Oh, there we go. I was able to mute so I can see you now. Go ahead.
So this is the model that you ascribe to, and this is the way that we're told that the Earth is. It's round in shape.
Guilty as charged.
Pardon?
Guilty as charged. I'm saying guilty as charged. I was just humorously, yeah.
Sure. Now, the main ingredient inside the Earth, according to science, is do you know what the two main ingredients are?
Well, not exactly.
It's iron and nickel. Now the problem with
right.
yeah. Now the problem is the iron and the nickel The temperatures are inside the Earth. Do you know what the temperatures are that are claimed to be inside the Earth's core?
I don't know exactly, but I'm understanding that it's very hot down there.
Do you want to guess?
Why don't I just look it up? Give me a moment here. I have the website, well, the internet in front of me. So, temperature at the core of the Earth. And I see livescience.com.
Yeah, and that one says Earth's core 1,000 degrees hotter than expected, right?
That's right. Now
So
it's
it's saying
estimated about 10,800 degrees Fahrenheit.
6,000 degrees Celsius, right?
Yes, that's what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, so that's what science tells us. I mean, I'm going to assume, and forgive me if I'm being a bit ignorant, but I'm going to assume that from a chemistry point of view, you're as illiterate as I am. I'm not. I don't profess to be skilled at chemistry.
I think
I don't
that's a good
claim
enough
any.
assumption. Yeah.
That's okay, right? So, do you know that iron, which is the main constituent element of, or the main constituent ingredient of what's inside the Earth's core, has something called a Curie temperature?
Okay, I'm listening.
Do you know what the Curie temperature does?
I don't.
The Curie temperature is the point where iron loses its magnetic charge, its permanent magnetic state.
Okay.
And once it loses that magnetic state, beyond that temperature, it cannot have a magnetic state unless it's got an external source that giving it one. In other words, if it was magnetic in the first place, because of the Curie temperature has been exceeded, it can no longer hold its own magnetic charge without something giving it its charge. It's like another magnet, for instance.
Right, now if you would allow me to, let me stop you here. Now, right now, you're giving what I assume to be is an understanding of iron that will be a premise of what you're going to say later. Is that correct?
No, I'm just making sure that we both agree on what the correct
Exactly.
science is.
In other words, and you're going to build a point on top of this. Is that correct?
Not on the iron point specifically, no. I'm going to build
Is
it
this
on the
in any way related to the point that you're going to make later?
It's related to the no. I'm not. I haven't got to my point yet. I'm just getting to
So
the
if this
point
is
where
not related to your point at all, why are you mentioning this?
I'm getting to the. What I'm trying to do is get to the points that we both agree on, and then carry on until we get to the point where we disagree. And when we disagree, that's
Okay,
where we.
well then I
start.
can't say I agree with you on this then.
Right. So it's the fundamental principle of the Earth's core that it has a molten iron core, and we need to have the science and the physics in place. You need to either accept that this is the science or show that it's not the science.
I don't accept that that's the science.
You don't?
No.
Right. Well, it is the science, and if I have to, I can start going into the Curie temperature of iron. But I'm hoping that you're not familiar with this, then, no?
No.
All right. So Curie temperature. Right. So the Curie temperature of iron is about 1,000 degrees Kelvin. That's about the same in Celsius, right? But we've just seen that the temperature of the Earth's core is 6,000. So it's 6 times more hot than the Curie temperature. Now, the problem with the Curie temperature of iron, which is the main constituent element or the main constituent ingredient, come on, I'm waiting for it to open.
Mm-hmm.
What? There we go. Right. Because what happens once the temperature rises, the Curie temperature of most of the metals that are magnetic become pyromagnetic, and what that means is it no longer holds its charge; it loses its charge, but something else can charge it. Now, if it was a permanent magnetic state beforehand, which is why we get the magnetic fields of Earth, then it loses that completely, and Earth has no more magnetic charge because it's beyond the Curie point. Now, that is a science point there, and if you're not familiar with it, you should go and look into it because you'll learn stuff. Because if you look at it critically about what the model tells us, the Earth model, then it means that the next thing that we should see is, well, if the Earth's still magnetic, but it's got a molten iron core that's now 6,000 degrees instead of 1,000 degrees, then it means that there's something else that's charging it. But on your model, there isn't. On your model, it self-perpetuates. So in the absence of something that's charging it, where does the magnetic fields that we get, that all our compasses work from, where do them charges come from if it's not got an external source to magnetize it? And on your model, it doesn't. Do we agree that there's nothing to magnetize the Earth on your model?
Okay, so this is why I tried to save us from going through all of this earlier. Okay, let me back up. You are the person who told me that the image on the Wikipedia site is showing something old. And I say, well, I could take a book and beat it all up and it looks old. So just because something looks old doesn't mean it's old. We agree. We also agree that, and are we cool on that, right?
I'm just wondering why you're not answering my question.
Oh, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. But do we agree upon that? Just like you're building up to a point, I'm building up to a point as well. We agree upon that, right?
Okay.
We agree that Wikipedia is not the best source of information. We agreed upon that.
Okay.
We agree that, at least I'm not going to say we agreed upon that, but you showed me you had me pull up the cover of a book that said there's something called Lilith. And then you asked me to accept that there's something called Lilith just because a cover of a book says so. That to me is not logical. That to me is not scientific. So what
It
I
might
say
not be
all that.
scientific.
Well, let me finish.
It's not. I agree. I agree. It's
Okay,
not scientific, but it is
exactly.
evidential.
No,
It is
no, it's not. It's
evidential.
just something somebody put on the book. That doesn't prove anything. If you may see it differently,
Well,
but we could disagree that we see it differently. But from my perspective, you just showed me words on the cover of a book doesn't prove anything about anything out there. That's where I'm at. So
but,
you're the
but
person
where,
who pointed all this out to me. So I'm not going to accept something you say about the core of the earth and say it's my model or my science. What we can do is I can go research the core of the earth myself, and I can see what the core of the earth is and see what the temperature is and see if this certain point where I can see if all that is real myself. And if I can establish that myself, then we can come back, okay, and we can say, okay, we have this understanding. But I'm not going to accept what you say is my model and then try to defend what you told me my model is. That's not going to happen. So what we can do is, if you want, we can come back next week, or I don't know how long it'll take. I'll look into it, and I'll look into the core of the earth, and I'll be able to look back at the video and see exactly what you termed it and all that stuff. And when I
all
know it
right.
for myself from
Well,
scientists who globe scientists, then I could come back and say, okay, this is our position, and I can explain
okay.
to you this is why there's a magnetic field. But I'm not going to accept your explanation, given all the what I find to be, you know,
Okay.
questionable
That's
explanations
fine.
already. I'm not going to accept your explanation for it. So that's
But
where we at.
I want it to be really clear on what the position is that you need to be looking into.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll make a note of it. Well, actually,
Now,
it's recorded, but
you're
I'll make a note
recording
of it
this
anyway.
now, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but still, I like to take notes. So, what's the position?
So just timestamp this moment because this is what your homework is.
I mean,
Because I
certainly,
accept that
certainly.
you're not familiar with the Curie point of
Okay.
iron
How
in
do you spell
relation
that?
to the Curie, Curie.
Okay.
Now, you can't. If you look at the screen on the Hangout now.
Okay. Let me bring up YouTube again. Okay, a moment here. Okay, I see it.
So if you type in Curie temperature of iron and the word geostrieber, which is
Okay.
the gentleman that I had the hangout with, it brings up some results, and you will find that
Well,
one of them is the Curie point of iron by TSG Physics, which is one of the documents I want you to look at.
okay.
And the other one is my own hangout with GeoStreamer, who is a master's trained, or I think he's learning his master. He's an undergraduate qualified chemist.
He
But
believes the Earth is flat.
no, he believes the Earth's a sphere,
Okay.
and he's
But this is
learning
what I'm
his.
going to do. I'm not going to. I'm not going to
Hang
go
on,
to.
hang on, hang
Again,
on, hang on.
well, mom, you're still trying to control my position. I'm not going to go to your sources to learn about it. I'm going to go to MIT or Harvard or whatever I decide to go to. I'm not going to.
Oh,
I'm not going to use your. You're still trying to control my position and get me to defend the position you give me. I'm not going to do that. You told me to
I'm
look up
glad.
Curie point. I'm going to
I'm glad.
find my sources to look up Curie point, and I'll
I'm
let you
glad.
know what I find that suits me, that lends
Darryl,
me credibility. I'm not going to go to your
Darryl, look.
sources to build my
Darryl,
position.
I'm glad you
So,
mentioned MIT because this is one of the documents that if you hadn't have interrupted me, I was going to cite you to this document, which is an MIT document,
awesome.
and it's on the Curie point of iron, and it's a really good illustration of what happens with iron when it goes beyond the Curie point.
I'll look at that.
Well, I'd like to present it to you now and explain it to you. You can tell me.
You've already proven to me that from my perspective, your reasoning is not as sound as I would base my reasoning on. So this person
What are
may
you
not know what
talking
he's
about?
talking
You just
about.
cited. You wanted an MIT citation,
But that
and
doesn't
I'm
mean
about to
everybody
present
from
one.
MIT knows what they're talking about. That doesn't mean just because he's from MIT, he knows everything.
But
I
again,
mentioned
you
several
dismissed.
things. I said MIT,
Darryl,
Harvard. I will go to more than one place. I'm not going to go
Darryl.
just to the guy that
All
that
right, but
matches what you say.
listen, Darryl,
Hmm.
shush. You just said then MIT, right? And I was going to present to you a document from MIT
I
on the
also
curie
said that
point
I'm
of
not going
iron.
to accept the evidence you give me to build my point. Maybe I want to go to
So
somebody else
you're
from
going to.
MIT.
Well, this is the
Maybe I
second
want to go
occasion.
to somebody else. Maybe I want to go to a professor, not someone who's learning, who's a student. You said he's
Darryl.
just getting his degree. I'm not. Again,
So
I'm not going to
Darryl,
base my position on the evidence you give me. I'm going to base my position on my evidence. This is
Darryl,
your
shush.
position.
Take a breath. Take a breath. This is now the second occasion where I've presented you evidence that you weren't familiar with and you've dismissed. And you've said that
Because
you're going to go away and look at it, and that's fine.
because
But
you're
at
trying to
least give me
tell me
the.
my position. I've already said
But,
what we can do
but
about that. We can come
Darryl,
back next week and I
Darryl,
can come back with an understanding and we can just put that on the side and I'll come
Darryl.
back with my understanding of the Curie point and we can go from there.
But why wouldn't you let me present to you an
Why
MIT
is it okay
document
for
so
you
I
to
can
move
make
past
my
a point
point?
when you want? Why
Darryl,
is it
stop
okay for you to
interrupting
move
me,
past a
damn
point
it!
when you want? When I was
Stop
trying to
interrupting.
explain the light from the edge of the moon's shadow, you said, let's just move on past this point and cut the time. Why is it okay for you to do that, but it's not okay for me to do that? I'm saying I'm
Because
going to look into it myself where I want to go. So let's move past this. I don't want your resources on this. I'm going to look for myself Curie point. I'm going to do it.
Darryl,
I don't want your
don't
sources on
don't
it.
you think, Darryl? Listen, don't you think it would be prudent to at least hear my point so that you can challenge my point specifically next time we speak?
No. All I want to do is learn what Curie point really is. Again, I'm not trying to debate with you. I'm trying to understand.
You're not.
I've made I know I don't.
You're not
That's
trying to
why I know
understand.
I don't. That's why I said I'm going to take the time and look into Curie point myself. I made a note of exactly what it is, and we can come back next week or the week after I've taken the time to look into Curie point from the sources that I value, the sources that I. Because you say this guy is learning. He's not a professor or something, is he? Is he a professor? Is he like a PhD?
Right. Look,
So I do not
Darryl.
accept this
What
this
is the
video
point,
from you. I will look
Darryl?
myself.
Darryl, what is the point, right, of having a conversation with me about the shape of the Earth if you won't let me present to you the evidence that points specifically
You
against
said
the
this is
idea
about
that we live on a
mine.
sphere?
You said this is about the Earth. If the iron in the center of the Earth loses its magnetic charge and so on and so forth, you're talking about the globe, aren't you?
Yeah,
I don't,
but I'm
I'm going
trying
to
to
look into
point
the
to
globe
you,
myself.
Darryl. I'm trying to point to you the massive hole in it, and you won't let me
You're
present you
pointing
to the
to the
hole.
massive hole from what you found to be a hole. I'm saying I do not accept that guy as a resource for me. I will
But you
look into
cited
it myself.
MIT.
I'm
You
pretty.
cited
Not
you
just because
cited
he's from
MIT as
MIT
a
doesn't mean
credible
he's a
authority.
genius. I'm going to find somebody who I feel is an authority. Everybody at MIT doesn't
But
know
you
everything.
cited MIT as an
I
authority.
did. I didn't see
Right, and I'm
everybody
about
at
to present you
MIT.
an
I didn't see
MIT
a
document
freshman
on.
at MIT. I'm going to find a
Darryl,
source at MIT that I consider to be
all
an
right, all
authority.
right, all right. So what now? You're forcing me to drop my point, even though my point is what you should be going away to research about the hole in the evidence for your point. You're still not going to let me
Again,
present it, right?
you have found evidence that suits you that makes it a point and something that I have already told you is not my position. I do not know if what you're saying is accurate. I do not know if what you're saying matches what authentic scientists say. This guy just may not be at MIT and not know what the hell he's talking about. I mean, how many
Really?
times do we have to go over this? Yes. You haven't
I
gone.
think
Do,
it's
do you
more
know that?
likely, Darryl, to
So you think
respectfully,
everybody at
Darryl, I think it's
MIT makes
more
A
likely that the
pluses?
guy knows exactly what he's talking about, and it's
I
you
do not
that's the one
agree.
that doesn't.
I do not agree. So I mean, I will take the time and research Curie Point from sources that I accept as authorities, and then we can go from there.
Right.
But before we go, why
But
don't you
why will you
finally
not
tell
listen
me
to?
something you know? Why don't you finally tell me something you know about the
Well,
Earth?
I'm trying, but this is the second occasion where
You're
you've
trying to tell
dismissed
me about
evidence
the
that was
round Earth. You're trying to tell me
this.
about what's wrong with the round Earth, and I'm telling you, I do not
Yeah,
accept that guy as an authority. I will find my own sources on the Curie Point. You keep trying to control my narrative.
I'm not. I'm
Then,
showing you that.
then
I'm
let me
trying to show
find
you
my
the
own
point.
sources. I do not
I'm,
accept that guy as a source.
Darryl, I'm not trying to control your narrative.
Then
I'm
let me
trying to
find
tell
the
you.
sources I want, and then we can move on.
I'm trying to tell you that there are holes in your model, and I'm
According to
trying to show
you,
you the hole,
according
and
to
you won't
you,
accept it because
according to
it's not
you,
your
I will look
citation.
myself, and then I will come and say, this is
Yeah,
what
but you
I
don't know
found.
what you're
This is my
looking
sources.
for. You don't know what you're looking
Curie
for
point,
because you
is that
won't let me
right?
tell you where to
Curie
look to when I
point, is that
follow.
right? Curie point of iron?
The Curie point of iron, yeah.
Then I will look into it. I know what I'm looking for. The Curie point of iron, what that
But you're
means.
going
What
to
would
miss
that
the
mean to
important
iron
bit.
at the core of the earth? I know what I'm looking for. Curie
You're
point
going to
of
miss the
iron. What
important
does
bit
that
if you
mean with,
don't let me
with
present the point.
magnetism? What does that mean with iron at the core of the earth? I know what I'm looking for. I don't know why we're still. I don't know why we're still going over this.
Because it's the second time we've dismissed evidence
Because
against
you're
your
trying to give
position
me evidence
based
that
on
you
your
say is.
ignorance. And
Okay,
I've got to
then
drop
let.
my
I know
point
it's my
because,
ignorance. I don't know what the Curie point is. I already admitted
right,
that.
but
So
it's the
I'll take
second
the time
time.
to find it from sources that I accept as authorities. I do
But
not accept that guy as a
no,
source. I mean,
right,
I don't
but
know. I don't know how
but,
to.
but the point is, it's the second time based on your ignorance I've got to drop my point against your model.
Okay. Okay then.
Right.
Then
So we're going to go
when I
third
get
time.
understanding of my model, I'll come and explain it. How
We'll
can
go
you
with
give me
we'll go
information
with
on my
third
model?
time.
You're not making any sense. I never came to you and said, this is what flat earthers believe. Explain that. I asked you, what do you know? I asked you, what is your position on flat earth? But you're coming to me saying, this is what you believe. Look, this is a flat earth, and this
No,
is what you believe, so defend
no.
it. Then
I'm
let me
trying to say
find
to
my
you,
sources, and I will tell you my understanding of Curie Point, and we can go from there. Now, tell me something you know about the earth, and then you can at least tell me something that you know.
right, and I've just given you two examples of things that you didn't previously know that I've had to drop my point because you didn't know them and didn't want to commit to either of
Are you
them.
talking about
And
the
this,
Wikipedia image again that we already proved can look old even though it's not
no,
old,
it
and that
wasn't a
Wikipedia is not a
Wikipedia
valid
thing.
point?
It wasn't
What?
a Wikipedia thing. It was
What?
the Antikythera mechanism, and it predicts and it has done for hundreds of years the movement of the celestial bodies. So
All
let's
right,
get it
man.
right. Don't
Well,
mischaracterize what I did.
I'm
I
gonna
didn't
have to go to
present you a
work anyway. We're
Wikipedia
just going around
document.
circles here. But this is what I'll do. I'll look into the Curie Point thing, and then
Yeah,
you
but
can actually
Darryl,
have something that you
the
can
point
present on
is,
your position.
it's the
And
second
I'm not gonna
time.
keep
I've
going
only
around this point, man.
presented two, but it's the
It's
second
been
time that
recorded.
I've
I'm
had
about
to
to get
drop my
here.
point
I'm
because of
about to
it.
go, man. I'm not gonna keep going around the circle. I'm gonna look into the Curie Point, and I'll have my position on
Right,
Curie Point, and then you could
right.
maybe next time you could actually have something you can say about what you know about the universe, and we can go from there. But it was nice
But
talking to you, man. Hopefully
but
we can
the
talk
next
again.
time, what do you mean? You're the one that's dismissing the evidence I'm presenting to you based on your ignorance, and then claiming that I'm not the one with the evidence. Yeah, I'm
Uh,
giving you the evidence, and you're not
you,
familiar with it. So
you,
I have to drop my point. Yet
you've
somehow
already
I'm
said
being
that the Earth is not
yet
that
somehow
you know
I'm
the
being
Earth is not round.
represented as that I've got nothing. How is
You've
that
already
working?
said that
Because
the
you
Earth is
doesn't
not round.
what?
You've already said that the Earth is not round. You know it's not round. Did I understand you
I'm
correctly?
picking you up on your last comment that you said I had nothing. But the reality is
You
I've
haven't
given you
proved
two
anything about
examples.
what you know about the Earth, about the solar system. You haven't given me anything.
I have. I've given you the Curie temperature of iron, and I've given you the Antikythera
I told
mechanism
you
with
I don't
regards to.
accept your understanding of what's supposed to be the globe. How does that prove the
I'm
Earth is
saying
not a
that I've
globe?
given you nothing. What you mean to say is that I've given you two pieces of information that you didn't previously
Right.
know that you now have to
I've
go
already
away,
covered
and
that.
because you
I'll go
didn't know
ahead and
about them,
study it, and we
I've
can
got
come
to drop
back in
my
a week.
points
Yep,
because of it.
I'm ignorant about the Curie point of iron. I don't know what that means. I'll go look under it, under my sources. What do you want to do it? A week or two from now, and then we can talk about it, and I'll tell you what I understand, because you may just not understand. That's why I gave you those examples earlier. You just may not know what the hell you're talking about. You
I,
made this guy could be this guy can be the Curie iron example of just seeing somebody say Lilith is there, and now I have to accept Lilith is there. This is the kind of logic you've demonstrated doing this. You see the guy says Lilith right there, so now do you accept Lilith is there? This is the kind of reasoning you've showed me. I'm not going to accept anything you present to me. You agreed yourself that's not
so
scientific,
why are you
so I'm
here
not going
then
to
if you're
accept
not
that.
going to accept anything
I'm
that I
okay,
present
guys.
to you?
I'm about to go, but like I said, I'll research the Curie point, and I'll come with my understanding of what if it really something that really exists. I'll research it and find out if I
Darryl,
find an authentic scientist that can talk about the Curie
Darryl.
point. I'll look into you in a week or two. I'm not going to accept the word of some guy who just believes because a book cover says Lilith that I have to accept it as there. And then, to me, that's just the same thing. This video, I don't know. This guy could be an idiot. This image that you say is old. We proved it because look, it's not old. We confirmed that Wikipedia is not a good source. I'm not going to accept the evidence you give me to try to prove what my position is. I'm sorry.
So why are
So
you here then?
I was here to learn about the flat earth from you. You told me you don't know that it's flat. You just know it's not round. I asked you, what do you know? And you keep trying to pressure me with what you're telling me my evidence is. So
Yeah,
why
but
don't
your
next time
evidence
you
is why
actually,
you believe
well,
that we live on a sphere,
I've
right?
already told you that over and over. I gave you the shadow of the moon on the earth from the solar eclipse. I gave you the shadow of the earth on the moon from the lunar eclipse. I gave you the satellite, the ISS up. I gave you the satellite sending photos like the Himurari 8 is one
Well, actually,
example. I gave
you
you all
actually
of these
didn't give.
examples.
Actually, you didn't give anything other than rhetoric. Let's just be clear.
Then if that's
I'm
the
the one
case, then
that
you
gave
haven't given
evidence.
anything either. Okay, man.
I,
Let's go
I'm the
ahead and
one that
I'm
gave
going to go ahead.
evidence. You
I'm gonna have to
gave
go to work.
nothing other than rhetoric.
I'm gonna have to go to work soon anyway, man. Or I'm gonna have to go to work soon. But what I'll do, I'll learn about the Curie point of light. Why don't you get something definite about whatever you believe about the Earth?
Dude,
And
I could do this all day
what
with
was
you.
your other homework? Curie point of iron. I meant to say. And what else? What else do you
Curie
want me to look
point of
up?
iron, but also consider the hangout that I had with the undergrad in chemistry who's now studying for a master's in chemistry
The
because
undergrad.
he
Again, you're
accepts.
talking to these people who are learning. This guy is learning.
Yeah, but when I went to MIT, you rejected it and wouldn't even look at it. So
Because
what
just
I'm
because
damned if I
somebody's
do
at
and damned if I
MIT
don't.
doesn't mean when I said MIT, I mean like a professor who's writing textbooks. I didn't mean this
Right.
guy who's still learning. I didn't mean an
I gave
undergraduate
you a
who's still
document. I
learning.
gave you a demonstration of the Curie temperature of iron from MIT, and you wouldn't accept it
You're
because I
not
gave
listening
it
to
to
what
you.
I'm saying.
No, I
Just
am.
I didn't mean an undergraduate from MIT who is learning. When I said MIT, I meant a professor, a PhD. And I also mentioned Harvard, a PhD. I
You
mentioned
never
more
mentioned
than one.
Harvard.
I didn't say I was just going to accept, just because you go to MIT, I have to accept what you say. I did not
No,
say
you're
that.
never going to accept what I say, and
Of
you
course
never.
not.
You
I'm going
probably
to look for
right.
myself
Listen,
because you've already
listen,
proven, as I said earlier, that your
listen.
reasoning is
With
unsound according to my position. But again, I really got to go to work, man. But
yeah, you got to go somewhere. But listen,
you please get something
remember
for your
this
point.
phrase.
You please get
Re-
something for your one more thing. Go
no,
ahead.
remember, Darryl. Remember this phrase. When you're looking at the Curie temperature of Earth, once that Curie temperature
Okay.
is exceeded, it relies for us to have a magnetic field. There has
Again,
to
you're
be
making
something.
claims. You're making claims that I'm going to verify for myself. There's no need for you to make these
Please
claims.
listen.
There's no
Please
need for you to
listen,
make these claims. I'm going to come back a week or two, and I'm going to come out with everything I've
Darryl.
learned
Please
about the
listen,
Curie point of iron, and then we can go from there. And maybe we will
Darryl.
disagree. But I'm not going to
Darryl.
accept what you say about iron as factual. I'm not.
Just
So
listen.
I'm going to go, man.
Just
But
listen to the point.
I got to go to work, man. We'll get back in a week or two or something, man. I mean, really.
Just listen to the
I got to
point.
go. I really got to go to work, man. I'm going to go in, man. You be cool, but I'll be back. I will.
Well, I'm not so sure that I will if you're not going to accept any evidence that I present you. But have a good day in work, and I hope everything goes well for you.
Problem.
Bye-bye.